Do you want to learn how to get retired, stay retired, and enjoy your life to the fullest? This is the Retire Happy Podcast with certified financial planner professional Jeremy Finger. Jeremy will be your guide to happiness as he discusses the art and science of retirement, breaking down the complicated information to help you make good financial decisions without worry or burden. Now, on to the show.
Hello and welcome to Retire Happy with Jeremy Finger. Jeremy, how are you?
I'm doing great, Eric. How about yourself?
I'm excited. This is kind of groundbreaking today. This is a podcast where you have your first guest on the show. Are you excited?
I'm excited. I had to bring in a very heavy hitter for this one. Just so she's the first one. So
yeah, absolutely.
I had to make sure I started off with real high quality.
Absolutely. And you've given me the honor of reading part of her bio. I cannot possibly read her entire bio. It is robust. It's amazing. But I'm going to just give the audience a little bit of background here. You have Maria Angelova on the show today. She has an MBA and is a disruptor, author, body-mind expert, Pilates teacher, and founder and CEO of Rebellious Intl. Maria's mission is to empower clients to live a life of freedom, happiness, and fulfillment through the power of authenticity, a strong body, and a calm mind. Maria's multicultural upbringing, experiences in corporate finance and entrepreneurship, and her tremendous personal transformation position. Maria's multicultural upbringing, experiences in corporate finance and entrepreneurship, and her tremendous personal transformation position Maria uniquely as an effective mind-body coach, as well as a dynamic motivator and educator. Jeremy, you weren't kidding. You brought in the big guns today. So why'd you bring Maria on the show?
Well, I mean, this is the Retire Happy podcast, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you really need to be alive and healthy to be happy, right?
All right. It's kind of a no-brainer. You're right. Yep.
Yeah. Let's just state the obvious here, Eric. Well, with that wonderful introduction, Maria, how are you?
I am doing fantastic. Thank you for having me here. I am so excited, and congrats, Jeremy.
Oh, well, thank you very much, Maria. Thank you. And congratulations as being my first guest on the Retire Happy podcast. Well, tell us a little bit more about how you got into what you do and how you help people.
So I got into what I do at a very young age. I started hitting the gym at age 12 when kids were making fun of my big butt. And that was the beginning of my gym visits, regular gym visits. I moved to the United States. I'm originally from Bulgaria. And at the age of 16, I started teaching group fitness classes at the gym. And that ever since became a favorite hobby, to say, of mine. I went into the corporate world for close to 20 years into the world of finance and operations. But always on the side, I did what I love doing. And then almost 6 years ago, I made it my full-time job. I quit corporate and I started following my passion and teaching people how to be strong and free in their mind so that they can live happy and fulfilled lives.
Wonderful. And let me say this, and I've said this before to you privately, but that's a big transition going from a corporate world to doing what you're doing.
Yeah,
that's
it is.
Big deal. So tell me a little bit about your clientele and how you go about the process, and maybe a little bit what kind of results that someone gets when they experience your training.
So I would say I have a big array of demographics and clientele. I have people on the side of seeking athletic performance. And then on the flip side, I have people who are rehabilitating from surgery, injury, and they need to get mobility back into their bodies. So wide spectrum. I would say most of my clientele is 45 plus. And I would say that's probably because that's the age aches and pains start kicking in and people start becoming aware of, I need to do something about this. And the results that people experience is, I see a lot of back pains, hip pains, knee pains, a lot of stuff that's associated with aging. And a lot of that is usually related to misalignments created over time from sitting too long or having bad habits. So the biggest transformation that people start experiencing is the aches and pains start going away. They start feeling more flexible. They start feeling more strong. They become a lot more aware into their bodies. I work with very successful people, and you will be amazed of, I'll ask them to do something and they just look at me and blink and go, oh my gosh, I cannot believe how I cannot make my body do something so simple. So the body-mind awareness is something huge that we work on from a physical aspect. And then on the flip side, we work on the mindset, becoming aware of those limiting beliefs that limit us into growing and experience life as we would like to experience it, and liberating ourselves so that we can live the life that we want instead of the life that's been dictated to us.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Like, one thing I was telling Eric about earlier is like, you can have the greatest financial plan in the world and be financially free, but if you're not around to enjoy it,
Right.
or if you're not able to enjoy it, then what difference does it make? It's not like, we're walking around with we're not walking bank accounts.
Right.
So we have to be physically able to enjoy it and do the things that we want to do. And some of the things that you're talking about, pain alleviation, getting alignment, it allows people to live a better life physically.
Absolutely. Last week I did a consultation with somebody, and what she shared, she said, I used to feel on top of the world. I felt empowered and strong. And she had some surgeries that have resulted in her being in a lot of pain. And she said, the pain has really stolen my sparkle. I can't sit, I can't stand. The pain is so distracting for me. So it's sad when we get to that point, right? So I always tell people it's so much easier to handle something when it's handled proactively. It's a lot cheaper, it's a lot less time consuming, and there is a lot more you can do prior to you having surgery instead of post-surgery when you're rehabilitating. It has huge implications to the quality of life, and it goes hand in hand with financial freedom, just like you said, Jeremy.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, and so just like saving early is easier to stay healthy early than it is later, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Then you have a reactive reaction. Oh my gosh, I need a retirement.
Yeah. It's like, it's like you show up at 65 and, hey, I haven't done anything, and retire me.
Right.
No, it's hard to do. So what are some of the things that like, let's say someone is 60 years old and wants to be, start. How does someone start? Like, what is it? What are some of the things that people can do to take the first step? And maybe that's a pun intended. I don't know.
You know what? I think that's a great pun intended. Just start. I think we tend to overcomplicate things. What workout should I do? What's the new fad? Like, well, how many calories do I need to burn? How many steps do I need to do? You know what? Get out of that and just start moving. Just go for a walk, go for a swim, go for a bike ride, do whatever you like to do. And that's one thing I tell people, don't get wrapped up to what you think you should do. Because you know what, if I tell you have to go to the gym and burn this many calories and do this and do that, and guess what, if you don't like it, are you going to do it? Chances are not for a long time, right? The goal is to establish habits that you can sustain for the rest of your life so you can age actively and enjoy life, instead of do something that you're dreading every time you have to do. So just start moving, whatever that means for you. Take a dance lesson, go for a walk with your neighbor, whatever it means for you.
Wow. No, that's really, really good. That kind of parallels, what I talk to clients about as far as retiring happy. A lot of times people think, well, I need to live like a pauper and be miserable. And then all of a sudden, magically one day I can do all the things that I want to do. Well, I mean, there's two things here. Number one, you never know what the tomorrow may come.
Right.
And number two is like, hey, live your life today and enjoy it as much as you can. And you can enjoy it as much as you can while saving for retirement or making good financial decisions. So what I hear you saying is like, hey, you can start to be healthy, but also not be miserable getting healthy either.
Exactly. And I think that's, that's why I'm a little bit of a disruptor when it gets to the industry, because listen, I know not everybody's going to love Pilates, right? And Pilates is not for everybody. And guess what? That's okay. You have to do what works for you and enjoy it. To your point, what's the point of saving for after your age, whatever, if when you get to that age, your body is broken, you're in pain, you can't move, and then you have all of this saved money to do what? To cover medical bills?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. To get in the coffin and wait.
Yeah. You have to think about these things. What you do today is leads you to the life that you're going to have tomorrow. But at the same time, we should not forget to live in the today and in the present moment, right? We tend to plan and organize, and in 20 years I will travel and do what I want to do. Well, who knows? Maybe you don't have 20 years.
That's right. That's right. And that's kind of to your point, walk or do something that you enjoy. And Maria, I don't know if you know this, but I did a Ironman last year, and then so I started just like you said, started with walking.
Yeah.
Just started doing with walking. So, and just taking a first step, and 10 months later did an Ironman.
You
so
see,
kind of to your point. Yeah,
that's exactly right. I tell people with the type of work I do, I tell them you need to know how to walk before you can run, because everybody wants to come. That's how we are trained, right? We need to have intensity. We need to burn calories. And what I see is a lot of people work out of alignment, which is what causes the aches and pains. So you have to become aware of where your misalignment is. And, misalignment could be physical, or it could be mental or emotional, or even spiritual. But you have to start with the basics before you can do the advanced stuff. And I tell people, with me, you have to deserve the right to work out. You can't just come and expect to work out. You have to get to a point where you're aware of your body and how it moves before you can take it to the next level. But
perfect.
To your point,
tell me. Go ahead.
No, exactly to the point that you said. You started walking before you completed an Ironman. You didn't just go and run day one in Ironman.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. Well, how does someone get to the mindset of you talk a little bit about mindset in your bio and helping people being more happy and more physically free? What are some of the things that people need to think about in that regard?
Well, I think you need to start moving to begin with, right? Drop the you should do this, you should do that, just do it. And I guarantee you, even if you start with the smallest movement, let's say you're a couch potato and I start moving 10 minutes a day and then 15 minutes a day, you will feel 100% a mental difference, right? If you're in pain and you reduce your pain, you will be shocked of how much more zest for life you will have. If you are more present in the current moment rather than living in the past, which usually leads towards depression and things like that, or in the future, which is usually tied to anxiety, if you live present into the moment, you have a lot more calm. I also teach people how to be aware, and so that they do not react to life, but instead they respond to life. So if you think of like a wave that's going up and down, a huge wave, right? We don't want big waves. We want little waves. So when something happens, you take a deep breath, you're aware why you're reacting the way you are, and you let it go, versus getting wrapped into it. And 3 days later, you still can't move past something small that happened. Yeah. All of those things are really small changes, but they have huge implications for how one experiences life.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like the saying is like, when you find yourself in a hole, stop digging.
Right. That's a great one. That's exactly right. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
People are continuously amazed, whether it's the physical work or the mindset work. For example, last week, I always tell people, the more you become aware within your body and how your body feels, one of my favorite sayings is your body is an expression of you physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. So if any of those aspects are off, your body will give you some kind of sign. The problem is we're so disconnected from our bodies that we don't pay attention to them until the body is in, let's say, so much pain that it's screaming for attention. So I told her, she texted me, she said, oh my gosh, Maria, something happened. I got really stressed out and I could literally feel the stress, what it is doing to my body. So that was a huge win, one. But then two, we dug a little bit deeper and I said, let's talk about what triggered you. As I asked the questions, what we got to the bottom of, she was seeking validation that she was not getting, and that got her to get really upset. Once she knew what was happening, she was a lot more aware of why her emotional response was such, and she could handle that differently going forward. So she would not impact her body negatively the same way with a similar occurrence.
Wow. So, I mean, people could also stress eat and stress watch TV and do all these other, it can manifest itself not just in pain in their neck, so to speak, but it can show up in other unhealthy ways as well.
Absolutely. You know, the very interesting thing is, again, the type of work I do is very different, because you will, once you become aware of your body, let's say, you know, Jeremy, my weakness is chocolate, but like if I have too much of something I don't like, my mobility would absolutely be affected by if I didn't sleep enough, if I didn't hydrate enough, if I ate something that doesn't agree with my body. I can feel how my mobility, my range of motion is limited by the impacts of those external factors.
Wow. Wow.
It's powerful.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. I can see that. So can you do, is there anything you can do that prevents me from eating mint chocolate chip ice cream? I mean, that's just like, that's like my absolute kryptonite, or the opposite. I mean, I don't know what it is. It's like I got a gravitational pull towards it.
You know what?
Really
Once I figure out the solution to that problem, I'll be a very rich woman. But meanwhile, I think the biggest thing is awareness. And I am the type that I will never be that girl that never has ice cream or never eats chocolate or never has pasta or bread. But what I preach is moderation, right? If you're going to have pizza once a week. If you're going to have your ice cream, give yourself one day of the week when you're going to have ice cream, right? If you're going to have a drink, limit how much you drink, right? We have to live life. We have to experience and enjoy the things that make us happy. So if you take all of that away, that just goes against my philosophy. Everything in moderation.
Well, my moderation when it comes to mint chocolate chip ice cream is when it's done.
When the box is empty.
When the box is empty.
My husband says the same thing. An open box is an empty box.
That's right. Otherwise, it's still sitting there calling me.
I can relate, Jeremy. I can 100% relate to that. And you know what? The big question you can ask yourself, I mean, sugar is my downfall. That's like my poison. And when I have it, I think to myself, okay, you're doing this fully aware of how you're going to feel after, right? So that just brings maybe reducing the quantity of how much I'm going to have.
Yeah, understood. Well, what are some of the other, what are some mistakes that people tend to make that derail them from taking that first step, so to speak, or not being healthy? Like, what are some of the mistakes that people make?
When it gets to fitness, I would say one of the biggest steps probably is jumping into something too fast, too soon. Yeah. If you have been a couch potato and you have not really been active most of your life, and especially once we get past like the 45, 50, I have a friend and she bought a CrossFit membership for her husband, who is not really active. He's in his mid-40s, and the first time he went, he blew both of his knees off.
Both of them.
And I just use common sense. If you're not an athletic type, don't jump into something that's super athletic. Give your body time to adjust, to strengthen, and gradually do it. And the other thing that I already brought up before, do something you enjoy. I think many people fall into they see an advertisement, something on TV, some ad pops on Facebook, you're going to lose however many pounds in however many days. Look for something that's a lifestyle solution for you, not something that you stick for 30 days and then you default back to old habits. I always tell people, once you fall in love with movement, you never, ever have to work out a day in your life. But the industry, what it preaches is do it hard, do it intense. Most people end up getting hurt. Then that discourages them from moving. And then they're in a worse state than when they started.
Yeah. Yeah. I talked to this one guy and he says the number one thing is consistency. Mm-hmm. Number two thing is duration. And the last thing is the intensity. It kind of, to your point, like lifestyle. Yeah. Like, what are some things, like lifestyle things that people are doing? I mean, that people are having fun doing?
For example, like go for a walk every day. If you tend to sit a lot, make it the point that every hour you're going to get up and do a couple of stretches. Those are pretty easy things that you can do. Make sure that you get enough sleep. Hydrate. Make sure that you eat mostly non-processed foods, right? These are all things that we have heard. And here's the thing, if you're the type of person who loves to eat pizza and you have pizza 5 times a day, and then you say, starting tomorrow, I won't have pizza. Well, guess what? Right there, you're setting yourself up for failure, right? You have to be realistic with your expectations and making incremental steps and changes so that you're setting yourself for the long term and something you can maintain consistently. I mean, I can tell you how many people like, I'm doing this detox, I'm doing that detox, and then they do it for however many days, and then guess what? Back to old habits, which I think that's actually more unhealthy for the body, because it just keeps going up and down and up and down and up and down, and there's no consistency.
Yeah. I've seen people get the surgeries and then gain weight back.
Yeah, because they have not changed their habits.
My goodness, that's crazy.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
And one other thing that it's just popping to mind now is you mentioned endurance, so I want to quickly mention reps. I came from a gym environment where we did like high reps. I tend to teach classes, low weights, high reps. And now the type of work I do, we go for depth, not reps. I get a lot of gym people. This is probably one of my favorite examples. I had a guy and I showed him an exercise. That's a common exercise. And he said, oh, I can do 100 of those. I said, oh, yeah. So we corrected his engagement so that he can correctly engage his core. And he did 3 of them and he goes, dang, he's like, I can do 3 of those instead of 100. So it's not the it's not the quantity of how many you do, but it's the quality that counts. And I think that's something else to remember, because we're so driven by quantity.
Yeah. Oh, hey, look what I did. I did 1,000 whatevers, but it's not done. It's not done right, and it could also be injure yourself if you're not doing it as well.
And that's what happens a lot. People are, like I said, they're moving misaligned. They're not using the correct muscles, and over time, it starts wearing and tearing on the body.
Right. Wonderful, great advice. Well, thank you so very much.
Absolutely.
Like, what would be if for these listeners here? If there was like one takeaway, what would be the one takeaway you would say that, hey, this is the one thing you need to know. This is it. What would you say?
I would say keep moving, which I already said, so I won't count that one. And the second one, which will count as the first one, would be train your core. Core. A strong core is what's going to ensure that you stay active as you age.
Wonderful. Well, Maria, I don't think people know this, but you wrote a book, right?
I did. I surely did.
Yeah. And tell me a little bit about your book.
So the book is called Mind and Body: How to Live with Positivity, Passion, and Purpose. And it's a very short book. You can read it in an hour and a half. The first chapter is my story. And then the rest of the chapters are questions that that really help you create a self-care routine, huge on daily self-care, gives you some pointers onto mindset and things to pay attention to, talks about your body and how your body is this fantastic messenger that speaks to you all the time and gives you cues that we tend to ignore. So if you're somebody who is, I actually think it's great for everybody, but that's a little bit of a subjective opinion. But check it out, because it's a little gem. A lot of friends and colleagues have gotten it and they're like, wow, there's some profound stuff in there.
But it was like a number one release of short self-help books on Amazon. I mean,
yes,
that's really good stuff. That's really good stuff. And a little treat for the listeners out there: the first 3 people who email me, I will send them a free copy of your book.
Yay. Awesome. Congrats to those listeners. And thank you, Jeremy.
Well, you're most certainly welcome, Maria. Thank you so very much for sharing some healthy tips and guidance so that people can not only retire happy, they can retire healthy as well.
Absolutely. It was my absolute pleasure to be here. Thanks for the fun time. And hopefully InfoShared was beneficial for everybody listening.
Absolutely. Thank you very, very much.
You are welcome.
Well, Maria and Jeremy, this has been fantastic. A couple things. Maria, I don't know if you approve of this plan, but it's funny. Jeremy and I got to hang out in Florida for a while. The topic of ice cream came up down there because one of the dinners we were at, they had some pretty amazing ice cream. And I knew that about him. I knew the mint chocolate chip. I told him my favorite is peppermint ice cream. So I figure even if I'm fat, my breath will be great. Is that okay?
I love your rationalization, Eric.
Okay, I can rationalize anything when it comes to ice cream, my friend. So couple different things. Number one, what was the name of your book again?
The name of the book is Mind and Body.
Okay.
How to
Mind
live
and
with how to live with positivity, passion, and purpose.
Okay.
The link to that is in the email I sent you, Eric.
Okay, perfect. We'll also put a link to that in the show notes. So that'll be in the show notes for all the listeners. That would be great. And then also, Maria, one last question.
Sure.
Is there a way that people can get a hold of you, maybe connect with you on social media or contact you if they want to reach out?
Absolutely. My website is rebellious-studio.com, rebellious-studio, studio.com. And my Facebook is Rebellious INT. My Instagram is Rebellious INTL. And the best way to actually get in touch with me is to shoot me a text at 678-358-5700.
Well, Maria, thank you so much again for being on the show. And of course, Jeremy, thank you for all you do and facilitating this podcast, bringing great information, and now amazing guests to the audience. And of course, our last thank you goes to you, the listening audience. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening to the Retire Right Happy podcast with Jeremy Finger. If you have not subscribed to the podcast yet, please click the subscribe now button below. This way, when Jeremy comes out with a new podcast, it'll show up directly on your listening device. And we humbly ask that you share this podcast, rate it, and leave a review, as this actually does help others find the show. Again, thank you so much for listening today. For everyone at Riverbend Wealth Management, this is Eric Johnson reminding you to live your best day every day. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Retire Happy podcast with certified financial planner Jeremy Finger. If you have any questions, please visit us at www.riverbendwealthmanagement.com or call us at 843-970-1043. And remember, click the subscribe button below to be notified when new episodes become available.
Investment advice offered through Stratus Wealth Advisors, LLC, a registered investment advisor doing business as Riverbend Wealth Management. The opinions voiced in this podcast are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which strategies or investments may be suitable for you, consult the appropriate qualified professional prior to making a decision.